Royal watchers, brace yourselves. The name of Prince William and Princess Catherine's fourth baby has finally been revealed, and it's shaking the monarchy to its core. Forget protocol. Forget tradition. The name is bold, beautiful, and impossibly loaded with history. Diana. Yes, that Diana. A name that changed the world once, and now might do it all over again. From top-secret medical visits to explosive palace reactions and the king's emotional response, this is more than a baby announcement. It's a royal reckoning. And what this name means could reshape the future of the crown forever. The hidden pregnancy that caught everyone off guard. It began with one coat, oversized, buttoned oddly, and worn on a windy Tuesday afternoon in October 2024. Catherine stepped out briefly, just long enough to be seen. But royal watchers noticed what the palace had hoped no one would. The coat didn't look like fashion, it looked like camouflage. Within 36 hours, whispers filled the internet. Is she pregnant again? Not long after, Catherine quietly vanished from public view. Her last official event had been exactly 17 days prior, a visit to a children's hospice in Surrey. Then, nothing. No appearances, no photos, no updates. Meanwhile, Prince William's calendar suddenly looked unusually light. Public duties were scaled back. Overseas plans were quietly shelved. The absence was loud. Behind the thick stone walls of Kensington Palace, something was unfolding. Catherine was seen only in the darkest hours, slipping into private clinics, always under heavy protection. Senior aides were briefed under strict confidentiality. Even staff at the palace noticed changes. Medical supplies arriving discreetly, unusual nighttime movements, increased security. But the palace said nothing. No denials, no confirmations, just silence. That silence fueled a frenzy. Online sleuths compared photos. Experts speculated on due dates, and one London bookmaker even opened odds on a royal birth in 2025. Yet amid the chaos, the truth was heartbreakingly simple. Catherine was pregnant with their fourth child, and this time, she and William were determined to protect the peace they never had before. After months of pressure and speculation, the couple knew they needed space, not just for Catherine, but for their entire family. That's why they made a bold choice. Far from the photographers and palace walls, they packed up quietly, booked nothing publicly, and took their 3 children somewhere sacred, a place where no cameras were allowed, and every memory would be theirs alone. It was time to tell George, Charlotte, and Louis, and the moment had to be perfect. The Scotland retreat and the family's private moment. The retreat began like any other quiet royal escape. In the early hours of August 12, 2024, a private helicopter lifted off from RAF Northolt. Aboard, William, Catherine, and their 3 children. Destination, Balmoral Castle, the royal family's most secluded estate in the Scottish Highlands. There were no press releases, no media alerts, just wind, hills, and the promise of family. Inside Balmoral, a soft fire burned, and the mood was calm. For the first 2 days, they explored the grounds, played games, and baked scones in the castle kitchen. On the 3rd evening, William and Catherine sat the children down. George, now 11, looked serious. Charlotte, age 9, instantly welled up. Louis, just 6, blinked and asked, "Does this mean I'm not the baby anymore?" It was a moment they would never forget. Catherine hugged Charlotte tightly, reassuring her. William laughed and ruffled Louis's hair. Then George, quiet but composed, said something that surprised them both. Granny Diana would be proud. The air shifted. They hadn't even brought up names, but somehow he had. The children were sworn to secrecy, and they kept that promise without fail. That retreat wasn't just a holiday. It was a memory being written, a private chapter for a family constantly under scrutiny. It was the moment their 3 children stopped being the youngest royals and became the protectors of the family's newest secret. Balmoral had always been a place of healing. Now it was also a place of beginnings. Back in London, the world still speculated. But behind the scenes, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge began planning for something more personal. In the late evenings, after the children went to bed, William and Catherine would sit side by side with a notebook between them. They weren't discussing press strategy or logistics. They were choosing the name of their child, and the debate had already grown intense. But one name kept returning, again and again. Until finally, everything stopped. The notebook full of names and one that changed everything. The notebook was simple, blue leather, slightly worn. Inside were 34 names, each carefully written. Some were underlined, some crossed out. Catherine had circled a few in green ink. William had made quiet notes beside others. But for 3 weeks, they couldn't agree. Every name came with history, with weight, with expectations. Then, one rainy night in September 2024, Catherine hesitated. Her finger stopped on a name neither had dared to circle yet. "Diana," she whispered. The room went still. William didn't speak. He simply stared at the page. Catherine looked up. "I know it's bold, but it feels right." The silence stretched for nearly 4 minutes. William stood up and walked to the window. The last time someone had named a child Diana, it had caused waves. But this time, it wasn't about headlines. It was about heart. "If we do this," he said finally, "we do it with complete conviction." And Catherine only nodded. By dawn, the decision was made. Diana would be their daughter's first name. It wouldn't be hidden in the middle. It wouldn't be softened. It would be proud, clear, and public. William said it first. "She'll carry her grandmother's legacy, but she'll write her own story." Catherine smiled, whispered the name again, and closed the notebook for the final time. Telling the king. It wasn't a formal request. It was a personal one. William asked to see his father privately. No aides, no secretaries. Just a father and son in Clarence House on a quiet Sunday evening in October 2024. The fireplace crackled in King Charles's study, but the mood was cooler than the room suggested. Charles poured tea. William hesitated. Then he spoke. "We've chosen a name." The king paused mid-sip. "Diana," William said. That was it. One word. The room fell into heavy silence. Charles didn't speak. He simply stood and walked slowly to the tall windows, looking out at the London twilight. After nearly 5 minutes, the king finally asked, "Tell me why." William's voice broke as he answered. He spoke of grief, of memory, of a woman who had shaped his entire life and shaped the world. "She was never just my mother," he said. "She was everyone's. This child, she deserves to know that power." Charles turned, his eyes misted. For once there was no monarchy, no pressure. Just a father remembering a wife lost 27 years ago, in 1997. He placed a hand on William's shoulder and said quietly, "You have my blessing." No debate, no argument, just those 5 words. And they meant everything. But outside that room, not everyone felt the same. Word of the chosen name spread through the palace like wildfire. Protocol officers raised concerns, senior aides held hushed meetings, and royal advisors grew nervous. The name Diana wasn't just a tribute, it was a lightning rod. And within days, William and Catherine found themselves face to face with the full force of the institution, one that was not ready for the storm they were about to unleash. The palace advisors were furious. The backlash was immediate. In a private meeting held on October 19, 2024, senior royal aides confronted the couple with blunt warnings. "This will reopen wounds," one said. "It could divide the public," said another. They urged them to reconsider, to delay the announcement, to choose a safer name. "Diana is too emotional," they insisted. But Catherine didn't flinch, her voice calm, her words exact. "This is not your decision." The room froze. William sat beside her, nodding slowly. "We're not asking for permission," he added. "We're informing you." His tone left no room for interpretation. After 13 years of marriage and over a decade inside the royal machine, they had learned one thing: love didn't wait for approval. For nearly an hour, arguments circled: tradition, PR impact, comparisons to Harry and Meghan. But nothing moved them. Catherine remained serene. She looked each advisor in the eye and said, "This name is about healing, about legacy. It's not a headline, it's a home." The aides, outmaneuvered, had no choice but to back down. And by the time the couple left the meeting room in Buckingham Palace, the decision was final. Diana would be her name. The institution had tried to interfere, but this time, it wasn't about politics. It was about a promise, one they intended to keep, no matter the cost. As tension inside the palace slowly cooled, the focus quietly shifted. Catherine's due date drew closer. Medical teams were assembled, routes planned, and the press kept entirely in the dark. The world still speculated, but the truth was only known to a handful. And then, on one peaceful morning, it happened. Just before sunrise, the call went out. She was in labor. And what followed would become one of the most powerful royal moments of the decade. The birth of baby Diana. It began at 4:27 a.m. on Tuesday, November 5, 2024. Catherine's labor had started. Immediately, the pre-cleared team at St. Mary's Hospital was activated. Private entrances were sealed, roads around Paddington closed off, and elite security swept every corridor. No media vans, no flashing lights. Just total, clinical precision. At 8:46 a.m., after 4 hours of calm but intense labor, their daughter was born. Weighing 7 pounds, 4 ounces, she came into the world surrounded by peace. No chaos, no pressure, just love. Catherine cried softly. William held her hand. The moment was gentle, a world away from the circus of their earlier births. William stepped out briefly to make one call, to King Charles. His voice was filled with emotion. "She's here. She's perfect." Charles reportedly cried. It was the first time a royal birth had brought both joy and closure to such a deep loss. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Catherine held her daughter close and whispered the name: Diana. By 2 p.m., George, Charlotte, and Louis were brought to meet their sister. They'd waited 6 months for this moment, and it didn't disappoint. Charlotte was the first to hold her. Louis tugged on William's sleeve and asked, "Can we keep her forever?" George, standing tall, simply smiled. For the first time, their family felt whole. Her name is Diana. Inside St. Mary's Hospital, in a quiet private suite on the third floor, the entire family gathered. It was just hours after the birth. The air still smelled of flowers, the warmth of tea, and something else: joy. William stood near the window, bouncing his new daughter gently, while Catherine reclined with a soft blanket around her shoulders. At 3:15 p.m., George walked in first. At 11 years old, he was composed, careful, already carrying the quiet burden of his future role. But when he saw the baby, he smiled, a rare, pure smile. Charlotte followed, her eyes instantly filling with tears. "She's named after Granny," she whispered, and Louis, barely 6, looked confused. "Can I call her Di?" he asked. William laughed through tears. "You can call her anything you like." The moment was tender, intimate. Charlotte held the baby like she was made of glass. "She's so small," she said. Catherine smiled, brushing Charlotte's hair back. "You were this small once, too." The baby stirred slightly, her fingers curling around Charlotte's. George leaned in closer. "Is she really going to be called Diana?" he asked, like the name still felt too heavy to believe. William nodded. "Yes, Diana Elizabeth Grace." He paused, watching his son process it. "Because she carries all 3 of their legacies." The room fell quiet. Charlotte whispered, "Granny Diana, Queen Elizabeth, and Grace?" She looked at Catherine. "Who's Grace?" Catherine reached for her daughter's hand. "That part," she said, "is for our family. Grace is who we want her to become. Not a queen, not a symbol, just someone full of kindness." By the time the family left the hospital later that night, a decision had been made. The announcement would be public tomorrow. The world would know her name. But for now, in that room, she wasn't a princess. She was just Diana, new, tiny, real, and already deeply loved. The next morning, before breakfast, the official statement was prepared. But the moment the name went live, everything exploded. The palace had prepared for mixed reactions, but no one could have predicted the scale. In under 20 minutes, Princess Diana was trending in 47 countries. Across continents, headlines popped up like fireworks. The past had returned, not as a memory, but as a name. And just like that, a newborn baby became the center of a global storm. The internet breaks as the name goes public. At 9 a.m. sharp on Wednesday, November 6, 2024, the palace released the statement. The Prince and Princess of Wales are delighted to announce the birth of their daughter, Diana Elizabeth Grace, born on November 5th at 8:46 a.m. Nothing more, no extra words, just names. But it was enough. Within seconds, the news was everywhere. Twitter melted. Instagram reels flooded timelines with edits of Diana, old and new, mothers crying, children cheering, conspiracy theories launching. One post read, "We've waited 27 years to hear that name again." Another, "Princess Diana lives on." Others weren't as kind. Exploitative, calculated. Too much, too soon. News channels broke away from live programming to cover it. BBC, CN, Sky News, France 24. All ran looping footage of the new baby alongside archival clips of Diana, the original. Commentators debated, was this homage or manipulation? Even Good Morning America devoted an entire hour to the implications of the name. Celebrities joined in. Elton John tweeted a simple heart emoji with, "She would have loved this." Meanwhile, known royal critics questioned the choice. "The child will live in a shadow," one wrote. "How can she be herself?" On YouTube, thousands of reaction videos appeared within hours, dissecting every syllable of the name. And yet, support poured in. Mothers named Diana shared emotional messages. People left flowers outside Kensington Palace again, just like they had in 1997. Old wounds reopened, but so did hope. It wasn't just about the name. It was about what it meant. Diana wasn't forgotten. And now, in some small way, she was back. By day's end, over 2.3 million posts mentioned Baby Diana. Royal merch skyrocketed. One baby doll named Little Di sold out in under 6 hours. But behind the noise, one thing became clear. This child had become a symbol, and the world wasn't sure whether to celebrate or fear what that meant. For Catherine, none of it mattered. Her job wasn't to shape public opinion. It was to raise her daughter. But even she couldn't ignore the noise forever. In a rare moment of public clarity, just days after the birth, she gave a short quote to the press. Just 11 words, quiet, careful, but unforgettable. And with it, she reset the tone of the entire conversation. The love, the hate, and the legacy. Catherine stepped outside on November 9th, her newborn wrapped in a soft white shawl. Photographers, long denied a glimpse, clicked furiously. But Catherine didn't flinch. A reporter called out, "Is the name meant to stir controversy?" She paused, then smiled gently. "The name is a gift, not a burden." That was all. No follow-up, no staged moment. Just truth, soft and unshakable. And in that moment, something shifted. Critics began to quiet. Supporters grew louder. The public, so ready to judge, began to listen. Over the next 2 weeks, poll numbers shifted. Approval of the name rose from 46% to 73%. But the arguments hadn't disappeared. Some still claimed the name would crush the child with expectation. Others said the choice was political. A few even suggested it was aimed at Harry, reigniting old rivalries. Yet Catherine and William remained silent. They didn't need to defend love. Meanwhile, inside palace walls, things softened. Charles began calling daily. Camilla, notably silent at first, sent a handwritten note. "She has your eyes," it read, "and her grandmother's strength." It was the first olive branch in months. Diana's name wasn't just a symbol of the past, it was beginning to heal the present. And as baby Diana's photos, just 1 or 2, were quietly released to mark her 2-week birthday, something became clear. She wasn't just Diana's granddaughter. She was herself. The name hadn't overshadowed her. It had framed her. And with each passing day, the world learned how to hold space for that name again, with grace, not grief. Years would pass before her story truly began. But even in those early days, William and Catherine had one hope: that their daughter would never feel like a replacement or a replica, that she would grow into her name, not be trapped by it. And so they began a quiet mission, to let the world meet Diana not as a symbol, but as a soul, a little girl, their girl, one who was ready to carry the future. A new Diana for a new generation. In the halls of Adelaide Cottage, mornings were filled with laughter. At just 6 months old, Diana was already showing signs of a bold spirit. Catherine often said she had eyes that see straight through you. William called her our lightning bolt. But behind closed doors, the message was always the same. She is not her name. She is herself. Still, history lingered. When Diana was brought to her first public event, a charity walk in May 2025, supporting causes her grandmother once championed, the crowd broke into spontaneous applause. It was supposed to be a small moment. Instead, it became a symbol. Charles held her proudly that day. At 76 years old, he looked down at her with something rarely seen in public: softness. "Your granny would have been proud," he whispered, caught on a nearby mic. "And I'm proud of your mummy." Catherine watched from a few steps back, her heart full. This was never about reclaiming the past. It was about anchoring the future. In interviews, William began to speak openly about legacy. "Diana taught the world compassion," he said during a June 2025 interview. "Our daughter reminds us of that every day." And as Diana grew, so did her world. Her name, once feared as a flashpoint, became a bridge between generations, between families, between memories and dreams, not a shadow, but a sunrise. And in that light, the royal family found something rare: peace. So there it is, Diana Elizabeth Grace. 3 names, each carrying a legacy that stretches across decades and into the heart of a nation. This wasn't just about honoring the past. It was about choosing how to honor it, on their terms. William and Catherine didn't ask for permission. They knew what they were doing, and they did it anyway. Because this child, their 4th baby, wasn't just born into royalty. She was born into history. With her first name, she carries the spirit of a grandmother she'll never meet: Princess Diana, the people's princess. A name that once broke royal silence, shattered expectations, and redefined what it meant to be loved by millions. With her middle name, Elizabeth, she stands in line with a monarch who ruled for 70 years with unwavering strength. A quiet nod to duty, resilience, and grace under pressure. And with grace, she carries something personal, something not written in royal ledgers, but in hearts. A word chosen not for headlines, but for hope. For the kind of woman William and Catherine pray she'll become. And now, the world waits. Cameras are already circling. Every appearance, every smile, every milestone will be compared, dissected, magnified. It won't be easy. But William and Kate have shown us something powerful. You can choose love over fear. They refused to let a name become a ghost. Instead, they turned it into light. Little Diana is here, not as a copy, not as a crown, but as a new force, a new voice, in a family still learning how to carry the weight of the past and the promise of the future. And perhaps, in the years to come, she'll stand where her grandmother once stood. She'll speak, she'll walk into crowds, and people will cry, not just for who she was named after, but for who she's become. This isn't just a baby story. This is a royal rebirth. And whether you adore it or question it, one thing is clear. The name Diana just became royal all over again. And this time the world is watching, with its heart wide open.